Good afternoon, my wonderful fifth grade students. This is Mrs. Darmody, and I wanted to show you a little bit about Google Slides. I know that you are used to using Google Slides to a certain extent, but I want to show you some of the more advanced features that you might find interesting to use. So let's begin. So once you're logged into your Google account, of course, you're going to go to the Google Apps grid and click on that. And then you can click on slides, or you can go to Drive and then go New Slides. I think we'll go like this. And once you begin a blank presentation, just click on that. And this is going to be a practice presentation. We always want to give things a name. Themes, I think you all know probably how to use a theme. You can click on a theme and it applies to all your slides, and you can close that. To add a slide, I know you're used to just clicking on the plus sign to add a slide, but if you click on the down arrow next to the plus sign, you can choose different layouts for your slide. One of the popular layouts is the title with 2 columns, and it's already pre-formatted for you. So you can just put your text in there, put your title, or put a picture on one side and text on the other. That's really cool. You want a blank slide, you can click down here. And this is undo and redo, and of course print, which we're never going to print here. This is your shortcut toolbar. I'm sure you're used to using that. We're going to be using the insert menu quite a bit. I know that you know how to insert an image, but if you weren't sure, you could click here, upload it from your computer if you have one saved on your computer already, search the web, go to your drive if you have an image stored on your drive, find it by URL, which most of you know that as the website address. URL is Universal Resource Locator, or if you have a webcam on your computer. And I think you know how to do that. Text box, if I want to insert text box, I get my little crosshairs, I get that, and then I can type in there and choose various fonts, font sizes, and all the different ways you can even highlight your text. Okay, I'm going to undo that because I don't want that. If I go to insert audio, we're not going to do that right now. But if you were to insert audio, you can't actually directly record audio into Google Slides like you can with Microsoft PowerPoint. You must record the audio separately, and then you can insert it here. Video, of course, you can click on this. Search for a video on YouTube. Technology. My favorite topic. Ooh, amazing military intelligence technology. Oh, cool. All right. So if I want that one, I click on it, select. It inserts it in. And I don't need to do that. I can move this around anywhere on the screen. Then I can put a title up here. Then if I go to shapes, I'm sure that you know how to make a shape, but the different shapes are here. And if you weren't sure, like for instance, if I said to you, let's put a right triangle in, and you weren't sure which one was the right triangle, you can simply hover over the shapes and a little pop-up box comes up to tell you what it is. And there's my right triangle. And this is a parallelogram, a trapezoid, so on and so forth. Okay. If you want an arrow shape, you can use these. If you want callouts, you can use these. Callouts, you probably know them better as speech bubbles or thought bubbles. So if I wanted to use a speech bubble, I can go down here and click one, use my crosshairs, draw my speech bubble, and it is treated pretty much like a shape. So you'll notice it's just grayed out. I can color it in with a different color. I can put a border around it. Maybe make that border thicker. I can double click inside and it becomes a text box. that I can type in. Of course, I can change that text. I can make it bolded. I can make it bigger, so on and so forth. And I can have my person down here. I can also, when I click on the text box, I can move that little tail to point in a different direction if my character's over here that's speaking. I can change the size of it, move it around, things like that. So that's pretty easy. I could have gotten rid of this more easily by just clicking on it and hitting delete. Okay, so that's your little shapes and call outs. You can do equations as well. You can put a table in. Now with the table, you can decide how many columns and rows you want. So this is 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, because remember, columns go up and down. So you can keep going. That's 8 columns, 1 row. And maybe I want 5 rows or whatever it is. So if I said I want 4 columns, 3 rows, that's how I would do that. Then I would click on that, and there it is. Then I can format my table. I can color it in. I can make lines a different color and a different thickness or weight, as it's called. If I decide that, oh, wait a minute, I wanted another row, I can click down here and say Tools, nope, Format, Table, and I can insert a row below that. Nice, huh? Oh, no, I didn't. I can undo it. Now, if you want to format individual blocks in the table, you just click on the block and you can change that to whatever it is you want. But you just have to see how I just clicked inside the box to choose that particular block to format. I'm going to get rid of this table. If I wanted to insert a chart, you can go here, but we're not going to get into that right now. Diagrams are a bit more complex, so we'll go back to that. Word art is here. I love word art. Whoops. Art. I love technology. And I hope you do too. So of course it's gray, and I don't like gray, so I'm going to make it a different color. Fill color, which is the paint bucket. Line color or border color is here. And again, I can make that border thicker. I can make that border a different type. Ooh, I don't like that. Maybe this one. And then I can use this little, this circle to tilt it. I can, of course, make it bigger and whatever else I'd like to do with it, or delete it. Inserting with a line. There are lots of different line tools to use. You can use an arrow, and you can make it a different color, different thickness, move it around. You can delete that one. You can insert curvy lines. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Oops, 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 oops. Okay, let's get rid of this. There we go. That's not what I meant to do. Insert line tool. And let's say I want the Scribble. That's the one I wanted. Scribble. And I want to write my name. Okay, so you can do a lot of things like that. All right, so now new slide numbers, that's not all that important. Now diagrams, this is really important, and this is something I'm sure you have not learned how to do before. So diagrams, I'm sure that you've all used Venn diagrams before with your teachers. And the purpose of a Venn diagram is to compare and contrast two or more different things. So let's do insert diagram. And what I want you to notice when you do that, this little pop-up window comes up and gives you categories of different types of diagrams that you can use that are pre-formatted, which of course you can change. So you've got grid diagrams. If we click on that, we see there are all these different types of grid diagrams. I go back here and hierarchy diagrams. I can click here. See, you could make like a family tree or a corporate structure or even a school structure, principals at the top and so on. You can change the number of levels and the color. Timeline. I could see using a timeline diagram, especially for history. You could click on it and there it is, and then you can make different things with it. Maybe you don't want that. All right, so now we go down and there's a process, and I can think of that using the process diagram maybe in science, maybe in STEM with Mr. Kenny, where you have to show the process that's followed for maybe a science experiment, or the process that's followed for something you build in robotics or in STEM. So you can see that there are various things to use for processes to demonstrate that with a diagram. And you can change the number of steps and the colors, because of course it only gives you 3 steps. Then when we come back here, we can show a relationship diagram, which we'll look at that in a minute. We also can show a cycle. When I think of a cycle, I think about science, and I think about maybe the cycle of a tadpole or a pollywog, a frog. You know, how does it become the frog? And maybe you have to show that process, or cycle, I should say. And you can do that here and add to it. The one that I want to focus on, because you will have a project where you have to use this particular type of diagram, is relationship diagrams, which oftentimes you don't always think about a Venn diagram being a relationship diagram. However, you are showing the relationship between 2 or more things. You're comparing and contrasting them. So you can see there are different types. I'm not too crazy about any of those other than the Venn. So you can click on the Venn diagram. You only want 2. Maybe you want a different color. Okay, and now we can close that. Now, you notice this is not really the best because it's very tiny for one thing. So you can click on the circles. You can make them much bigger, much larger to fit all the information. Of course, I want to make the other one large as well. So I'm clicking on that and I'm making that bigger. Whoops, I must have. Okay. I put 2 in by mistake. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move this over. This one I want to be about the same size, of course. There are text boxes already in there. Now, here's a thing that you want to do right away, I always say, because we're going to be changing the color of these circles. So we don't want white text. So the first thing you want to do is you want to click on that text. You want to change the color. How do we change the color of text? We have to go up here to that capital A. And we don't want it to be white. We want it to be black. And I probably want it bolded. And I probably want it 12 point. Easy enough, right? So now we go over to the other text box. And we're going to highlight that text. Oops. Try this again. Highlight the text. And I'm going to go up to the capital A to change the text color to black. I'm going to make it bolded. And then I'm going to change it to the size of 12. Now, here's why it's so important to change the text to black and not leave it white before you do anything else. Because how am I going to type anything in here? I can't see the part that's overlapping between the two circles because they're both solid circles. So I have to do something because remember, in a Venn diagram, you need that center area where you're going to put in the information that these things have in common, that are the same. So we need to go up to this, click on the circle, and then we need to go up here to the fill. See how it's solid? We want to make it transparent. See that? And that's why that if you had left the text as white, you would no longer see it because it would blend in. Then I can change that outside ridge of the circle to a different color. I can make that circle a little thicker. Then this circle, I can do the same thing. I'm going to go to the fill. I'm going to make it transparent. I'll go to the line and maybe I'll make that red and maybe I'll make that thicker, maybe a little thicker. There we go. And this, that's okay. All right, so we've got our two circles. We have a text box here. We have a text box here, but we need a text box in the middle as well, don't we? Because otherwise, how would we put our information? So how do we make a text box again? Do we remember? We can either do insert text box here or use our shortcut on the shortcut toolbar. We get our crosshairs, we click and drag, and now we have our 3 text boxes. Of course, we want to label. We always want to label. Okay, and now we might want to say, okay, this is going to be comparing crocodiles. Comparing and contrasting alligators and crocodiles. You'll be able to, in your project, you'll be able to compare and contrast any 2 animals that you'd like. Now, this title, notice it's way over on the left. So I'm going to highlight that text because I really want it centered. Here's the alignment button. See how it shows on the left? We want to click on that and center it and maybe make that a little bit nicer like that. Okay. And now we can find our information. So how do you find it? Well, you have to go down to this because we don't want to leave our Google Slides document. So we want to use the Explore tool, which is this right here. We click on Explore and we can search. Oops, not what I meant to do. Let's see, crocodiles versus alligators. You want the web. What's the difference? So you can look through to see your web results right here. Interesting. I think I'll go to this one. So I'm going to click on that. And here's my information. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of that, but there are a few things there. And then you would type in whatever it is. Obviously, you're getting rid of that text. And you're going to put in whatever it is, the similarities and differences, obviously. And then when you're done with this, we can close that. And there's your Venn diagram. That is probably the most complex part of this. Of course, I can get rid of that now. Get rid of this. Click on it, delete it. Click on it, delete it. Oops. And click on this and delete this. I hope that was helpful, and I hope to see you soon because I miss you all.